He thought he was just a guest on an alien world, until the princess declared him her mate in front of the entire court. Ethan Cole froze mid-step, as every pair of glowing Valoran eyes fixed on him. The polished crystal floors of the palace reflected the golden arches of the throne room, and above, the banners of Saralitha's lineage swayed gently, though the air was charged with tension. His mouth opened, then closed. Words failed him. How was he supposed to respond to a lifetime-altering announcement delivered like it was a simple greeting? Princess Saralith, tall, regal, and impossibly poised, stepped forward. Her violet eyes shone with a determination that made even the most stoic nobles shift in their seats. Her hand rested lightly on the jewel-encrusted hilt of her ceremonial spear, yet the power she radiated filled the room more than any weapon could. "From this moment," she said, her voice calm but commanding, "Ethan Cole is recognized as my mate. His place is no longer as a visitor. It is among my people beside me." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Some nobles gasped, others whispered in disbelief, and a handful stared openly, suspicion and curiosity warring in their expressions. Ethan's mind spun. This wasn't a diplomatic alliance. This wasn't a ceremonial courtesy. This was him being bound to the daughter of the king, in front of the entire Valoran court. His pulse thundered, adrenaline and shock mixing into a surreal cocktail that left his senses sharper than ever. The king, Saralitha's father, rose from his crystal throne, the long cloak of woven light trailing behind him. His gaze was steady, but Ethan could sense the calculation behind it. King Varlin had spent centuries navigating the politics of Valoria, and now he was weighing the risk of a human bond on his eldest daughter against the stability of his court. "A bold choice," the king said, his voice deep, resonant. "But one the laws permit, should the princess so declare. Ethan Cole, you are aware of the consequences?" Ethan swallowed hard, glancing at Saralith. She didn't falter. "I am," she said simply. Her gaze locked with his, and in that instant a current ran between them. Not magic, not charm, but something undeniable. Respect, trust, and something sharper, a challenge. I'm just a guest," Ethan managed, trying to inject humor to mask his panic. "I wasn't expecting this, or any of this." The room tensed further, laughter dying before it could start. "You are no longer a guest," Saralith replied. "Your choices have consequences here. You may stand, or you may refuse, but know that refusal carries its own weight." The weight. Ethan felt it immediately, pressing down like the gravity of this world itself. He'd fought battles across galaxies, survived ambushes, and stared death in the eye more times than he could count, but nothing had prepared him for this. Nothing but instinct. His instincts were screaming that this was not just a political statement. This was fate. The golden mark appeared on his wrist the moment her hand brushed briefly against his, glowing with a soft, rhythmic pulse that mirrored his heartbeat. The court gasped. Even nobles who had seen countless rituals whispered among themselves. That mark wasn't just a symbol. It was a bond, alive, responsive, and binding them in ways both mystical and tangible. Ethan exhaled, realizing that his life had shifted in a single heartbeat. The court's opulence faded to the edges of his awareness as he focused on her, and the pull of the mark told him everything he needed to know. He wasn't just here by accident. He wasn't a spectator anymore. And then, as if the universe waited for confirmation, he made a choice. "Then, if this is my place, I will stand," he said, voice firm, carrying across the hall. "Beside you, whatever that means." Saralitha's lips curved into the faintest of smiles, the kind that didn't need words to communicate victory, relief, and anticipation all at once. "Good," she said softly, "because danger is coming, and I need someone who will fight beside me, not behind, not beside my court, but with me. Do you understand?" Ethan nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. Danger. That word didn't intimidate him. What intimidated him was the weight of responsibility, not as a warrior, but as someone whose choice now bound an entire court, and perhaps even the fate of a world, to his decisions. The palace doors opened suddenly, scattering the light of the twin crystal chandeliers across the polished floor, and a scout rushed in, breathless. "Your Highness, enemy ships are approaching. The Zerith Dominion fleet is near the outer sector." Saralitha's violet eyes flashed, and the faint glow between them pulsed stronger, urgent. "It begins," she said, almost to herself. Then turning to him, she added, "Welcome to Valoria, Ethan Cole. Your real test starts now." And in that moment, standing amid the shocked murmurs of a court, the crystal walls reflecting the stormy sky beyond, Ethan realized he wasn't just a guest anymore. He was a warrior. He was bonded. He was home, and there would be no turning back. The palace of Valoria erupted into controlled chaos almost instantly. Alarms, soft, crystalline chimes that could pierce even the strongest concentration, rang through the corridors. Soldiers in polished armor sprinted toward their posts, while Valoran mages traced defensive sigils in the air, arcs of blue energy weaving through the halls. Ethan Cole, still reeling from the court declaration, didn't have time to process the shock. His instincts kicked in. Danger didn't wait for introductions. Saralith led him through the wide corridors, her movements fluid, confident, every step calculated. Ethan had followed soldiers into battle countless times, but navigating the palace of Valoria was unlike anything he'd seen. The hallways seemed alive, shimmering walls, floating lights, and energy-infused staircases, but the threat outside made every beautiful detail a potential trap point. "The Zirith Dominion is not subtle," Saralith said, her voice low but steady. "They've learned from past skirmishes. Their scouts are fast, clever, and utterly ruthless. If they breach our outer defenses, chaos will follow. We must be ready." Ethan nodded, taking in the reports from her aides and officers. The fleet approaching the outer sector was small, but fast, their ships cloaked to evade standard sensors. He could feel the tension in the palace, thick as the humid air over a battlefield on a desert planet. Humans fought wars of survival, but alien politics and court strategy? That was another level of complexity. "Deploy the perimeter sentries along the crystal cliffs," Ethan ordered, surprising himself with the authority in his voice. Soldiers blinked at him, some hesitating, but Saralith's approving nod silenced the doubters. "And I want scouts on high patrol points, using the light currents to spot any movement before they reach the valley. If they try to flank us, we hit them with precision." Her violet eyes met his, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. The bond, the golden mark pulsing on both their wrists, wasn't just a symbol now. It was a tool, a network of trust, instinct, and synchronization that neither fully understood yet, but already relied on instinctively. They arrived at the central command hall, a massive chamber with holographic maps of Valoria Prime projected in midair. Energy streams highlighted the natural terrain, crystal rivers, violet forests, and the cliffs that bordered the city. The Zirith Dominion's fleet was approaching fast, moving with unnerving precision. Ethan leaned over the map, tracing their paths with his fingers. "They want us to think the main attack is frontal," he muttered. "But the flanking units, see here?" He pointed to a small group advancing along a hidden valley. "They're setting a trap. Our soldiers will be caught between them and the main fleet if we respond conventionally." Saralith's jaw tightened. "So we counter by not countering. Let them overextend, then hit them from unexpected angles?" Ethan's grin was brief, grim, but full of focus. "Exactly. Ambush points, hidden energy barriers, and split squads. They won't see it coming until it's too late." The room hummed as officers digested the plan. Some still questioned a human strategist commanding Valoran forces, but the urgency of the threat left little room for debate. Saralith took the lead in giving orders, her voice ringing out with authority that no one dared question. Ethan moved alongside her, issuing additional tactics, showing soldiers how to coordinate energy strikes with mobility. Outside, the first enemy scouts were already visible, moving through the crystal forests with terrifying speed. Ethan pointed out cover positions, ambush points, and escape routes for Valoran units, blending human battlefield improvisation with Valoran precision. The soldiers adjusted instantly, their respect for him growing with every word and action. Then, the communication crystal blinked urgently. A patrol had already been ambushed near the outer cliffs. Ethan's stomach tightened. "If they reach the valley," he said, voice low but sharp, "our supply lines and communication grids will be cut. That's when the main fleet attacks." Saralith placed a hand on his shoulder. "We fight together, side by side. That bond you wear isn't just for show. Trust it and trust me." Ethan exhaled, the adrenaline mingling with the pulse of the golden mark on his wrist. He wasn't a guest anymore. He wasn't a visitor. He was a commander, a warrior, and now, by choice and decree, Saralith's mate. And every second from now would test him, not just as a human in an alien world, but as someone whose decisions could mean survival or annihilation. The palace doors opened with a sudden, shimmering flash. Scouts reported larger enemy formations converging. Ethan and Saralith moved to the balcony overlooking the crystalline cliffs. The early light reflected off the violet trees and crystal rivers, giving the scene an almost unreal glow. But reality was brutal. Ships streaked toward the valley, energy weapons already charging, and hidden strike units advanced silently through the forest. Ethan felt the thrill, the fear, the anticipation, the sharp clarity that only true battle could bring. His hand brushed against Saralith's golden mark pulsing. They were no longer separate entities in this war. Together, they were a single force, and the first clash of the Zirith Dominion's invasion was about to begin. The first screams cut through the calm morning air like jagged glass. Ethan's eyes scanned the valley below the palace balcony. The Zirith Dominion's strike units moved with unnerving synchronization, shadows among violet trees, their cloaks shimmering to blend with the crystal light. Ethan's pulse quickened, not from fear, but from anticipation. This was real. This was war. Positions, he barked, voice carrying across the balcony. Energy barriers ready. Ambush squads hidden along the ridge. Don't engage until I give the signal. Saralith nodded beside him, spear glowing faint blue, her armor catching the rising sun. Soldiers scrambled, efficient and precise, executing their orders with a rhythm that made Ethan nod in approval. Then the first enemy scouts appeared in the open. Ethan crouched behind a crystalline outcrop, motioning silently to the hidden units. Wait for the path to funnel them, he whispered. The enemy advanced recklessly, unaware of the trap. They were predators, but overconfidence would be their downfall. Saralith launched forward, spear whistling through the air, a blade of concentrated energy slicing one scout in half before another could react. Ethan rolled from cover, pulling a small energy blade from his belt, slashing down a third assailant. The soldiers coordinated, Valoran energy strikes meeting human tactical maneuvers. Chaos erupted among the invaders. Ethan's mind raced, processing multiple angles at once. The enemy thought they controlled the battlefield. They didn't. He led a hidden squad from the ridge, descending silently to flank the unsuspecting units. Explosions of controlled energy knocked scouts off balance, leaving them vulnerable. Push them back! Funnel them toward the cliff, he shouted. Soldiers obeyed instantly, moving like extensions of his own body. Saralith's laughter, short, sharp, and victorious, echoed as she deflected incoming attacks, her spear spinning in arcs that left enemies disoriented and bruised. Ethan watched, recognizing the synchronicity forming between them. They didn't need words. They moved as one, human unpredictability and Valoran skill interwoven seamlessly. A sudden flash, a heavy energy cannon opened fire from the cliffside, aiming to cut off the Valoran units. Ethan reacted instantly, leaping forward to intercept a blast meant for Saralith, rolling through the impact. Sparks showered around him. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he ignored it. Survival wasn't just about strength, it was about instinct. Ethan! Saralith called, her voice tense but steady. Watch your flank. A second wave of cloaked attackers surged from the forest. Ethan's eyes tracked each one, calculating, adjusting, predicting. He gestured toward the hidden units. Now! Engage from behind. Hit them fast and hard. Energy blades met cloaked enemies, ambush squads striking with precision. Panic rippled through the Dominion forces. They hadn't anticipated a counter this coordinated. For a moment, Ethan felt the exhilaration of battle in its purest form. Every decision, every strike, every dodge mattered. Saralith fought at his side, her spear a blur of blue energy, cutting through the enemy with lethal grace. One moment she blocked a blade aimed at his neck. The next, he covered her back as an enemy attempted a surprise strike. Minutes stretched like hours, and then silence. The valley lay littered with unconscious and retreating Dominion soldiers. Ethan sank to one knee, chest heaving. Saralith approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. Her violet eyes glimmered with relief and pride. You were reckless, she said softly, though her lips curved slightly. Not reckless. Calculated, he replied with a grin, though his shoulder throbbed sharply. He looked out at the valley, the first real taste of Valoria's fury behind them. The Zirith Dominion had been repelled, but the main force was still approaching. This was only the beginning. Saralith knelt beside him, golden marks pulsing in unison. You saved lives today, she said quietly, and you've earned the trust of my soldiers. Ethan met her gaze, feeling the weight of their bond like a shield. They weren't just allies anymore. Not after this. They were something stronger. A unit that could face overwhelming odds together. From the cliff above, the palace stood serene, oblivious to the carnage below. But Ethan knew the Zirith Dominion would regroup, learn, and strike again. This victory was crucial, but fleeting. He rose, brushing dust from his armor, eyes scanning the horizon. Sarilith followed, spear in hand, her aura glowing stronger than ever. "Next wave will come faster," he muttered. "We need to be ready." Sarilith's smile was faint, but her determination was undeniable. "Then we prepare. Together." The golden glow of their bond pulsed steadily, a silent promise. The war had begun in earnest, and Ethan Cole, human warrior, would face it not just with Valoria at stake, but with something far more personal tethered to his side. The battlefield had tested them, and in that first clash they had survived, stronger and inseparable. The morning haze barely clung to the valley when scouts brought the warning Ethan had anticipated. "Main force approaching," a breathless Valoran soldier reported, sweat streaking his violet armor. Ethan's eyes narrowed. The Zirith Dominion wasn't sending scouts this time. They were coming all at once. From the cliff overlooking the crystalline city of Valoria, Ethan and Sarilith could see the enemy fleet assembling. Ships of jagged black metal hovered in formation, weapons glowing ominously, their numbers far exceeding any Valoran force in memory. A shiver ran down the spines of even the most seasoned soldiers. But Ethan felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, the clarity of focus that came only in true battle. "Prepare the palace defenses," Sarilith ordered, her voice cutting through the murmurs of fear. "Energy walls to full strength, archers to the outer gates, and squads ready to intercept landings." Ethan moved among the troops, checking formations, adjusting ambush points, and positioning his human-trained squads where unpredictability would matter most. "Do not wait for them to strike," he commanded. "We hit first, we hit hard, and we control the battlefield. Keep the enemy guessing at every turn." Soldiers nodded, some with doubt, some with newfound respect. They could see the pattern forming, a strategy no Valoran general had ever devised alone. Then the first wave descended. Energy blasts tore through the morning mist, shattering crystalline towers and sending shards into the air. The palace gates quaked under the impact. Ethan leaped forward, rallying his squads. "Flank from the left ridge. Cut them off from the river." Sarilith spun her spear, creating arcs of light that deflected incoming fire, her every movement precise, deadly, and almost artistic. She was a whirlwind among the chaos, her presence inspiring the soldiers around her. Ethan intercepted a Dominion officer attempting to breach the palace wall, energy blade meeting dark steel with a clash that echoed across the courtyard. Explosions erupted as hidden squads emerged from behind walls and crystal pillars, striking enemy troops before they could even aim. Ethan's strategy unfolded perfectly. The Dominion forces, expecting a conventional defense, were being methodically dismantled. Yet for every enemy neutralized, another appeared. Their numbers were overwhelming, and the city trembled under the barrage of attacks. "Ethan, focus on the left flank." Sarilith's voice carried, sharp and urgent. He spun, blocking a surprise strike aimed at a group of young Valoran recruits. The human and the princess moved as one, a single unit of reaction and instinct. Soldiers followed their lead, the golden glow of their bond visible even amid the smoke and chaos. A massive warship hovered over the central plaza, its energy cannon targeting the palace core. Ethan's mind raced. There was no way to intercept it conventionally. "Sarilith, we need a diversion," he shouted. She nodded instantly, sending a wave of energy through the ground, knocking several enemy soldiers off balance. At the same moment, Ethan led a strike team up the palace walls, engaging elite Dominion troops in brutal close combat. They fought like shadows in the smoke, their movements synchronized, countering attacks, deflecting blows, and forcing the enemy back step by step. Each time the Dominion thought they had gained an advantage, another hidden squad struck. Confusion spread among their ranks, their well-planned assault collapsing under the unpredictable human tactics combined with Valoran mastery. Ethan felt the familiar sting of a wound across his forearm, but ignored it. Sarilith intercepted a lethal strike meant for him, sending the attacker flying into the shattered gates. He caught her gaze, both of them silently acknowledging what they had just avoided. Death had danced close, but together they survived. By afternoon, the Dominion forces were forced to retreat. Smoke hung over Valoria, crystalline spires cracked and scorched, but the palace remained standing. Soldiers cheered, though exhaustion and relief mingled in their voices. Ethan lowered his blade, chest heaving, Sarilith at his side, golden glow between them pulsing steadily. King Valen approached, concern etched deep in his features. "You've defended Valoria, Ethan. But this war is far from over." Ethan wiped blood from his arm, nodding. "I know, and they'll return stronger. But so will we." Every lesson we learned today makes us sharper for the next battle. Saralith's hand brushed against his. Together, she said softly. He gave a small, firm nod. Together. The city had survived for now. But Ethan knew in his bones that the Zirith Dominion would not wait long. The next attack would test not just their strategy, but the strength of the bond that had saved them once, and might be the only thing capable of saving them again. Valoria had barely caught its breath when scouts returned with troubling intelligence. "Sir, multiple Dominion fleets are converging from 3 directions," a young officer reported, his voice trembling. Ethan's jaw tightened. This wasn't just an attack, it was a trap, meticulously designed to stretch Valoria's forces thin, to overwhelm them through sheer coordination. Saralith stood beside him, spear in hand, energy coursing along its shaft like liquid fire. Her violet eyes scanned the holographic map projected before them, analyzing each approach vector. "They want to split. Left flank will be engaged heavily, center will appear weak, and the right. That's where the ambush will hit," she said, voice steady but laced with urgency. Ethan nodded. He'd seen patterns like this before, predictable for the enemy, deadly for the unprepared. "They believe the human tactics saved us before because we got lucky," Ethan muttered. "We'll show them it wasn't luck." He moved swiftly across the map, marking positions, calculating counter-movements, and allocating squads in ways the Valoran commanders hadn't considered. Every hidden path, every valley and crystal ridge became a potential weapon. As night fell, Valoria shimmered under the pale light of twin moons. Soldiers trained relentlessly, running through drills designed to blend Valoran energy techniques with Ethan's human unpredictability. Saralith moved among them, guiding, correcting, and inspiring. "Remember," she said, "we fight not just with skill, but with unity. Trust each other, and trust him." Her gaze met Ethan's, a silent confirmation of their shared responsibility. The enemy struck at dawn. From 3 points, the Dominion advanced, energy cannons illuminating the horizon. Their numbers were staggering, and the first volleys rattled the palace gates. Ethan's pulse surged, not from fear, but the clarity that only came in chaos. "Stick to the plan," he shouted. "Hold the line, wait for the signal, then we strike." As the left flank absorbed the initial bombardment, hidden squads moved along secret paths Ethan had marked, cutting off supply lines and isolating enemy units. Saralith led a counterstrike at the center, her spear tracing arcs of lethal energy, slicing through Dominion forces like a storm. Ethan intercepted a squad attempting to flank her, energy blade clashing with alien steel. Each move was calculated, fluid, deadly. Then came the signal, the moment Ethan had been waiting for. He unleashed the ambush, squads emerging from cliffs, forests, and hidden valleys. Dominion forces panicked, their coordinated attack now in shambles. Explosions rocked the battlefield as Valoria's energy walls activated in perfect sequence, trapping enemy reinforcements. Saralith fought at the heart of the chaos, moving with Ethan as if they shared one mind. He blocked a lethal blow aimed at her side, rolling to intercept the attacker and launching a counter that sent 3 Dominion soldiers flying. "Stay close," he shouted. She ducked under a sweeping energy strike, retaliating with precision that left the enemy in awe. Their movements were a symphony of war, human unpredictability and Valoran discipline blending seamlessly. Yet the Dominion was relentless. A massive warship descended, energy beams tearing through the defenses. Ethan assessed the situation with cold clarity. "We need a diversion, draw their fire away from the palace core." He signaled squads, splitting forces strategically. Hidden units detonated energy charges, forcing the warship to shift its aim. Saralith surged forward, her spear glowing brighter than ever, striking the enemy vessel directly, destabilizing its balance. By noon, the battlefield had transformed into a landscape of shattered crystal and scorched earth. The Dominion's assault was faltering. Soldiers, inspired by the leadership of Ethan and Saralith, pressed forward with renewed vigor. Each enemy unit cut down, each advance countered, strengthened the Valoran resolve. At last, the Dominion retreated, leaving a trail of destruction behind, but failing in their ultimate goal. Ethan and Saralith stood atop a cliff overlooking the battlefield, breathing heavily, their golden bond glowing softly, a symbol of their unity and shared triumph. "This isn't over," Ethan said quietly, scanning the horizon. "They'll come again, but we'll be ready." Saralith's hand brushed his. "Together," she said, voice firm. He nodded, the weight of responsibility heavy but shared. "Together," he repeated. The battle had tested more than strength. It had tested strategy, trust, and the bond that now held them together. Valoria had survived, stronger than before, but the shadows of the Zirith Dominion loomed larger than ever, promising that the real war was just beginning. The aftermath of the battlefield felt almost surreal. Valoria's soldiers were tending to the wounded, repairing energy barriers, and regrouping after the relentless assault. Ethan and Sarilith had returned to the palace, their golden bond glowing faintly, still pulsating from the intensity of the fight. Yet even as they walked through the grand halls, a creeping unease gnawed at them. King Valen greeted them with solemn relief, but his eyes betrayed worry. "The Dominion may have retreated," he said, "but there are whispers within the council, rumors that someone among us has been aiding them." Ethan's brow furrowed. Inside threats were far more dangerous than those on the battlefield. A hidden hand could undo everything they had fought for. Sarilith's violet gaze scanned the council chamber. "We cannot assume loyalty without evidence. But someone moved against us from within," she said. Her spear remained at her side, a constant reminder of readiness. Ethan leaned over the holographic map, noting subtle anomalies, supply shipments that had gone missing, patrols that had been misdirected. "They've been feeding intelligence to the Dominion for months," he concluded. "This wasn't a coincidence. Someone here wanted us vulnerable." The council murmured, unease spreading like wildfire. An elder noble, usually stoic, rose shakily. "It cannot be," he whispered. "We have served Valoria faithfully for generations." Ethan didn't respond. He had learned not to trust assumptions. "We need proof," he said simply. "Accusations without evidence will fracture this palace faster than the Dominion ever could." They split into teams. Sarilith moved through the palace, discreetly questioning guards and servants, watching for inconsistencies. Ethan, on the other hand, analyzed logs, communication arrays, and security readings. Hours passed with tension thickening the air. Every shadow seemed to hide a potential traitor. Then, late into the night, a clue emerged. A hidden corridor behind the council chamber, a place rarely used, showed signs of recent activity. Energy residue indicated someone had transmitted information to a device outside the palace. Sarilith knelt, scanning the residue. "This is fresh," she murmured. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Whoever had done this knew the palace intimately. They were one of their own. As they prepared to confront the suspected traitor, a sudden alarm blared through the palace. The outer gates shimmered with an unnatural energy pattern, an infiltration, but different from any Dominion attack they had faced. "It's coordinated," Ethan shouted. "Someone here is controlling their movements. This isn't random." Sarilith's spear ignited with a fiery glow. "We must split. I'll intercept the intruders. You find the source." The palace erupted into chaos. Guards moved like shadows, trying to contain the breach. Ethan followed the hidden corridor, each step echoing with tension. Finally, he found the transmitter, a crystal device pulsing with Dominion energy, and standing beside it, unmistakably, one of the king's trusted advisors. "Ethan Cole," the traitor sneered, eyes glinting with malice. "I wondered how long it would take you to notice. You've done well, but you've made enemies here you cannot even see." Ethan's hand went to his weapon, but the advisor activated the device. A surge of energy pulsed through the palace, temporarily disabling defenses. "Now the Dominion will take Valoria while you chase shadows," the traitor hissed. Sarilith arrived just in time, spear glowing like a star. "You miscalculated," she said. In a blur, she intercepted the traitor, her energy arcs cutting through his guards. Ethan moved in tandem, human strength and Valoran precision combining seamlessly. The golden glow of their bond intensified, a visible symbol of unity against deception. By the time the device was destroyed and the traitor subdued, the palace had regained control. Valoria had survived, yet the lesson was clear. The war was no longer only about the battlefield. Trust, loyalty, and vigilance within their own walls would be just as crucial. Ethan and Sarilith stood in the council chamber, golden marks glowing softly. "The Dominion underestimated us before," Ethan said. "They won't again. But now we know the real danger is sometimes closer than we think." Sarilith's hand brushed his. "And as long as we face it together, nothing can break us." Outside, the palace of Valoria glimmered in the night, calm to the unaware eye, but beneath its surface, shadows still stirred. A new kind of war had begun, one of cunning, betrayal, and strategies that reached beyond the battlefield. The palace had regained a fragile calm, but Ethan could feel the tension lingering in the very walls. The traitor's capture had revealed a chilling truth. The Zirith Dominion wasn't just striking Valoria. They were orchestrating a multi-layered assault, a master plan that no one had fully grasped until now. As Ethan and Sarilith walked through the corridors, golden marks on their wrists pulsing softly, the human warrior spoke. "They've been shaping this for months," he said, scanning the council chamber's holographic maps. "Every diversion, every false retreat, it's all part of a bigger trap. And it's coming straight for the palace." Sarilith's violet eyes narrowed. "How big?" she asked, her voice steady, though her body hummed with energy. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Larger than anything we've faced. Not just troops, but siege machines, orbital bombardment arrays, and something I've never seen before." He tapped a glowing data crystal. "Look here, the Dominion's fleet is divided into 3 prongs. One moves through the northern cliffs, another through the crystalline rivers, and the third directly over Valoria Prime's orbit. They want to strike simultaneously." The council members, previously awed by Ethan's battlefield intuition, exchanged uneasy glances. "We cannot defend on all fronts," an elder noble admitted. "Even the Valoran army cannot match that scale." Ethan shook his head. "Not if we fight how they expect. We can't just defend, we have to manipulate the battlefield itself." Sarilith tilted her head, understanding the human strategy forming in his mind. "They'll expect rigid formations," Ethan continued. "They assume fear and caution will dominate us. That's where we turn their own plan against them. We make them overconfident, and then strike where they least expect it." A deep hum shook the palace floors, a warning from the outer sensors. Distant flashes illuminated the twin moons, reflecting off the crystal rivers below. The first prong of the Dominion's army had arrived. Sarilith and Ethan moved instantly, coordinating with squads positioned across strategic high points, energy turrets, and hidden ambush sites. The battle erupted like a storm. Ethan darted between troops, his human unpredictability breaking conventional lines. Sarilith's spear glowed with Orlis energy, arcs of pure light cutting through enemy formations. Together, they weren't just fighting, they were orchestrating chaos, turning every attack into a trap. Then came the orbital assault. Energy beams streaked from above, smashing into the outer fortifications. The council had anticipated this. Valerian energy shields rose just in time. But one massive cannon pierced a shield, detonating near the palace gates. Ethan was thrown off balance, but Sarilith caught his arm, steadying him. "Not yet," she said, her voice sharp. "We control this battlefield." A moment later, the real masterstroke revealed itself. Dominion command units, cloaked in near invisibility, infiltrated the northern cliffs. They were targeting the palace's core energy conduit, the very source of Valoria's defensive power. Ethan's mind raced. "This is it," he muttered. "The moment they've been waiting for." He leapt into action, calling squads to intercept the infiltrators. Sarilith followed, her energy arcs blazing, cutting a path through the enemy ranks. The golden bond between them flared as they moved like a single entity. Human instinct and Valoran discipline intertwined flawlessly. By the time they reached the core conduit, the infiltrators were cornered. Ethan's hand smashed the Dominion's energy relay, shutting down their localized control of Valoria's defenses. Sarilith finished off the remaining troops with precision strikes. The pulse of their bond echoed through the chamber, a signal of unity and victory. Outside, the Dominion's 3-pronged assault began to falter. Ethan's traps along the rivers and cliffs triggered simultaneously, creating a cascading series of ambushes that the enemy could not recover from. Energy walls, misdirected troops, and human-inspired improvisation turned the battlefield into a cage. When the dust settled, the Dominion forces retreated, battered and humiliated. The palace stood intact. Soldiers cheered, yet Ethan and Sarilith knew the danger wasn't over. They had survived the master plan, but the Dominion would return with something even more dangerous. As they stood on the balcony overlooking the crystalline forests, the golden glow of their bond pulsing softly, Ethan whispered, "They'll come again stronger, smarter, more relentless." Sarilith's hand brushed his. "And we'll be ready. Together." Above them, the night sky shimmered with distant stars, and far beyond, shadows of the Dominion's returning fleets hinted at the trials yet to come. Ethan and Sarilith stood on the balcony, the golden glow of their bond illuminating the night. The calm was deceptive. Scouts had just reported the Dominion's main fleet emerging from the void beyond the Luminara system. This time, it wasn't a strike force or a diversion. It was a full-scale invasion, faster and deadlier than anything Valoria had faced. Ethan felt the familiar weight settle on his shoulders, a mix of anticipation, strategy, and raw survival instinct. They've learned from their last defeat, he said, scanning the tactical maps projected in the air. They won't underestimate us again, but neither will we underestimate them. Saralith's violet eyes gleamed with determination. Then we show them unpredictability, human and Valoran combined. Nothing can break Valoria if we stand together. Preparations were swift. The palace gates were reinforced, hidden squads positioned along cliffs and rivers, and energy grids calibrated to perfection. Ethan and Saralith moved like a single force, coordinating troops, issuing commands, and improvising defenses based on the Dominion's patterns. Every maneuver, every command was executed with precision, yet laced with the human unpredictability that had saved them before. At first light, the enemy arrived, massive warships blotting out sections of the sky. Their artillery fired in waves, energy beams cutting through the morning mist. Valoria's shields held, but the sheer scale was overwhelming. Soldiers faltered under pressure, and Ethan's heart sank briefly. This was unlike any previous engagement. "Focus on the choke points," he shouted, vaulting onto a raised platform beside Saralith. "Trap them between the cliffs and the rivers. Force them to overextend." The Dominion's army moved exactly as he anticipated, drawn into the deadly cage he and Saralith had designed. Yet, one unexpected variable threatened everything. A Dominion warlord, unlike any soldier they had faced, descended directly toward the palace's inner sanctum. His energy pulses disrupted the Valoran defenses, targeting the core of the city. Ethan's pulse quickened. "That's our danger point. Saralith, with me." They cut through enemy lines with unmatched precision. Saralith's spear left arcs of energy in its wake, felling multiple adversaries, while Ethan used human hand-to-hand combat tactics to neutralize threats no Valoran soldier could anticipate. Side by side, they moved as if the Golden Bond itself dictated their actions, anticipating each other's moves, covering weaknesses, and striking with lethal efficiency. Finally, they confronted the warlord. He towered over them, energy crackling like storm clouds around his fists. His attack was swift, a combination of brute force and precision that tested every skill Ethan had ever honed. Saralith blocked the first strike, but the next glanced off her shield, sending her skidding back. Ethan lunged, intercepting a blow meant for her, absorbing the shock through sheer strength and agility. For a tense heartbeat, the battlefield seemed to hold its breath. Then, as if their bond itself lent power, they executed a synchronized maneuver. Ethan dodged and tripped the warlord while Saralith unleashed a surge of pure Aurelius energy, overwhelming him completely. The enemy commander fell, the shockwave of his defeat rippling across the battlefield. The Dominion's forces wavered, their momentum broken. Valoria's soldiers pressed forward, taking advantage of the confusion, while Ethan and Saralith continued coordinating from the front lines. Within hours, the Dominion's massive assault had crumbled. Warships retreated, artillery silenced, and the invaders scattered in disarray. The palace remained standing, the city intact. Soldiers cheered, voices echoing through the crystalline valleys. The council, who had once doubted, now bowed in unanimous respect. Ethan and Saralith stood together on the palace balcony once more, their bond glowing softly, pulsing with the culmination of trust, courage, and victory. "You did it," Saralith said quietly, her hand brushing his. "We did it. Together." Ethan looked at her, finally allowing himself a rare, full smile. "We always do. No matter the odds." Above them, the stars stretched infinitely, and far beyond, the remnants of the Dominion's retreating fleet faded into the darkness. Yet the golden mark on their wrists glowed steadily, a silent promise that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, warriors, partners, and something far stronger than either title alone could convey. For the first time, Ethan felt truly at home, not because the battle was won, but because he had found a world, a purpose, and a bond that no enemy, no fate could ever break.